Hello, hello, magical souls. Kelly here at Charm Tarot. Thank you so much for popping by to check out this video. Today, we're going to go over 5 ways that you can journal with your tarot cards. Okay, so obviously, in order to journal with your tarot cards, you or your tarot deck, your oracle deck, whatever form of divination you may be doing, it may be runes, it may be tarot, maybe oracle, charms, whatever floats your boat. You will need a journal of some sort. You can make this as elaborate or fancy or not as you want. I found this Lisa Frank one at Target for I think like $2. A divination deck of some kind. Today I have the Monstarot by Joanna Nelson because I love it. And I think it's super fun to journal with because it's so fun. And there's lots of little fun, funky details to pull off of and help with journaling. And intuitive hits. And then obviously something to write with. I prefer my favorite unicorn pen. I got this from a toy store. Still my favorite. Whatever. Okay. So without further ado, let's start talking about how you can journal with your tarot cards or your oracle cards. And for us, I'm going to be saying tarot cards because that's typically what I journal with, is a tarot or an oracle deck. So journaling with your tarot deck is a great thing. It's a great thing because it's a great way to strengthen your intuition, get to know your deck, get to feel comfortable with reading for yourself, for others. And it's really good too because you can write things down, whatever, journal about it, and then go back and look at it later and see what has come to fruition, what hasn't. Maybe you want to start using your tarot decks or oracle cards like in ritual of some sort to be able to see what works and what doesn't work. And you'll be able to, again, just really connect to that deck on a different level. It's amazing what will come out when you're journaling. It really is. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so the first way to journal with your tarot deck is to word vomit. I know, it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? So let's say you shuffle, however you want to shuffle. Shuffle. Pick a card. What is it? What do we have? 4 of Swords. It's following me everywhere. Okay, 4 of Swords. So I'd say, okay, 4 of Swords. Pull out my journal, right? And I'd write down 4 of Swords with the Monstarot and the date. And then I would literally, if I know the meaning of the card, I might put the keyword of the meaning of the card at the top. And then I would literally just start writing whatever comes to mind. You can start describing what's going on in the card. Okay, there's, this little being is sitting down and he's resting, or it looks like he's meditating. Or I was very drawn to his mudra that he was using when he was in meditation. That stood out to me. So I'd say, that mudra popped, and just kind of start letting it all go. Don't censor yourself in any way, shape, or form. And no matter how you may be journaling, this whole idea of word vomit when you're journaling with your tarot deck or oracle deck or form of divination is like an overarching thing that you should do always, I think, when you're journaling, unless you are, going to be sending that off to someone else, in which case you'd want to word vomit and then edit it to make sure it looks, professional and makes sense. So you just start writing and go as long as you want until you feel like you're done. And then you can go back through and you can read it. And you'll be amazed at what might come out. You might feel like you end up kind of channeling. That's a lot of times how a lot of people channel is kind of through that same space. You might want to meditate first, or smudge or clear your area, cleanse your energy and your space before you do this. Make sure you are using protection for yourself, maybe in the form of crystals or sprays or, visualization. I always visualize myself being protected by white light when I'm doing readings, things like that. So especially when you're going to be journaling, maybe channeling and doing anything of that nature with divination. But this is a really great way to get to know individual decks as well, because it really helps you, each deck, you can have a 4 of Swords from the Monstarot and the 4 of Swords from the Way of the Panda tarot, and you might get although they have the general same meaning, you might get little intuitive hits that are completely different, that accentuate different parts and meanings of the card based on the deck that you're using. And that will really be able to come out when you're journaling with the card. Okay, so that is the first and foremost way. And you can always, and then you can just draw more and more cards and just keep going as long as you want. And what I like to do after I do that form of journaling is I'll write, word vomit all out till I'm done. Then if I'm doing a reading for myself and I'm getting to know a deck, I will then pull out the book, read what the author has had to say, especially Joanna. Joanna does a really great job of giving you very unique, inspired meanings to all the cards, because her cards, her decks, I feel like like all of the little beings in her deck really come with like a spirit and a life of their own, and she really captures that in her books, her description, her guidebooks. So I always like to read her stuff for sure afterwards, and I'll read that and then I'll go back and add that to whatever I may have written down. Okay, so that is way number 1, word vomit. Number 2, meditate with a card and then reflect on your meditation. Okay, so let's say you're wanting to meditate with a card. How do you actually do that, right? So there's lots of different ways you can do that. You can do, maybe you feel drawn intuitively to do one way or another. And if that's what you feel drawn to do, then by all means do that. Remember, I'm not the divination police, so take what works for you, discard the rest. Maybe just bits and pieces of this will resonate with you and work for you and other parts won't, and that's okay. All of that's okay. So you may choose a specific card that you want to work with, a specific energy that you want to work with, and that's a great way to meditate and journal with your tarot deck. So let's say I really wanted to work with let's say the Four of Pentacles energy. I really wanted to work with the Four of Pentacles energy, right? Because I know, at least for me, I suck at saving money. I'm not a very frugal person. Money is always a struggle for me because I just am like very quick to spend money and stuff like that. So the Four of Pentacles is always a very important card for me. When it pops up for myself in personal readings, I always know what it's trying to tell me, right? So I may want to meditate with this card and then reflect on that in a journaling experience. So I would probably take some deep breaths, clear my mind, maybe light a candle, again, cleanse the space, protect the space in myself and my energy. And then I would just visualize the card, or you may not even want to close your eyes, right? You may want to keep a soft gaze, just look at the card and go over every detail of the card and clear your mind of any thoughts that might come through. If you get a thought that comes into your head while you're trying to meditate, acknowledge it and then just imagine it floating off in a bubble or balloon or whatever. We all have thoughts that come in when we meditate, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're not able to meditate. It happens to everybody. Just acknowledge it and then let it go and keep going. And go over all of the colors, the images, the details. What do you see? Really kind of imprint that into your mind. And you may be doing that. You may want to look at the card before you meditate and then do that in your mind's eye, or you may want to do that with a soft gaze while you're meditating with some music or whatever. And then once you're done meditating, try and do that for however long. I would recommend at least like 2 to 5 minutes at least, if not longer. And then when you're done, you could, or you would, ideally, right, if you're going to be journaling about it, since that's what this whole video is about, is how to journal with your deck. You would write down the card, the date, the deck that you're using. I always like to put that in there to help me remember, and then the journal entry will make much more sense if you know what deck you were working with when you go back and read it later. And again, then just start that word vomit process of your experience. Reflect over the meditation. How did you feel during the meditation? What stood out to you? Did you find it difficult to focus? Or was it really easy to just drop into that meditative state? How did it make you feel? Did you feel uneasy? Was there resistance to the card? A lot of times, like some cards will really trigger people in a certain way. You might want to put that down, write that down and how that made you feel. and just reflect over your meditative experience. And that's another beautiful way to journal with your tarot or your oracle card and get to know it better. Okay. And then obviously at the end, you can go through, read the book on it, and then add more notes as well to add more depth and get to know your deck better. Then, so that is number 2. Second way to journal with your deck is to meditate and then journal your reflection of your meditation. Okay. And then number 3, the third way is somewhat similar to the meditation, but takes it kind of like a step deeper, is to actually put yourself in the card and then use and describe your senses and your experience of being in the card. Okay, so let's say I used, let's see, the Knight of Cups, let me find. Let's say I used the 3 of Wands in this example. So I want to put myself in this 3 of Wands card. This is a fabulous way to get to know tarot meanings, tarot decks. If you know, let's say you know all the meanings of the tarot cards, great. Even if you do, I highly recommend doing this exercise for at least the major arcana in your deck, if not all the minor arcana, or any cards that you struggle with, or ones with energy that you want to get to know better. Because putting yourself in the tarot card really gives it a new meaning. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to look at the card, and then essentially you're almost going to kind of drop into that meditative space again. And maybe you don't necessarily have to stop and be still and be silent in the moment, but just, put the car off to the side. And then I want you to literally take a moment to put yourself in the card, and that for you might become the person in that 3 of Wands, or the being in that 3 of Wands, or you might be standing next to that being, or you might be standing back looking, out over the water and kind of like watching the being over the water and all this. Trust intuitively wherever you're at when you put yourself into that card. Trust it, okay? Once you're in the card, where are you? Write it down. How does it make you feel? You describe all of your senses. What do you hear? Do you hear the ocean? Do you hear the wind at the top of the mountain? What do you see around you? Do you see what stands out? Do you see the leaves on the wands? Do you see the little boats? Do you see the little blades of grass? Do you see the being? Do you see his scarf? What do you hear? What do you smell? Do you smell the ocean maybe? When are you touching anything? Are you reaching out and touching, or are you communicating with anybody in the card? Are you talking to the being in the card? Are you talking to anyone else in the card? Is there anyone else there present with you, and what's their message if there is any? And document all of that down. Document all of it. And that is another amazing way to get to know the tarot cards. And then I always like to, too, at the top of any journal entry, write just like the basic keywords for the card, to just kind of help myself keep in mind that basic core meaning, because then I can say, okay, 3 of Wands for me very much signifies like growth, expansion, coming together, tying up loose ends, closing deals, depending on the reading and what's around it and stuff like that. So I might write some of those keywords down and then see how those kind of tie into my experience of putting myself into the card. And that is a beautiful way to get to know your tarot card. Also, I highly, highly recommend doing this with the major arcana or the court cards. It's a great exercise to do with the court cards to get to know them better. Wonderful exercise. There's a lot of really great things you can do to get to know the court cards better. And if that's something you guys want me to do a video on, let me know, and I'd love to do that too. Because that's a video in and of itself. Okay, so that was the third way. Okay, the third way of journaling with your tarot deck was to put yourself in the card, then use and describe all of your senses and experiences of being in that card and who you were in the card and what was going on. Okay, then the fourth way to journal with your tarot deck or oracle deck is to tell a story. This will really help you start to piece together how to layer in your readings, how to do more than a one card pull. If you're just starting out and you're wanting to figure out how you can, read more than one card at a time and how you tie that all together in a reading, let's say in like a past, present, future or something like that, then this storytelling exercise is really, really great for you. It's great for everyone. It's a great way, again, to just get to know your deck better and get to know your reading style better. Highly recommend. It's fun. It's a fun exercise to do. So let's say we have the 5 of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords, and the 7 of Cups. The cool thing about this, right? So you pull 2 to 3 cards. You definitely want to pull more than one. You pull all 3 of them. You definitely want to follow the word vomit with this and get creative, okay? I don't want you don't have to necessarily stay in this idea of, the 5 of Pentacles. Okay, someone is grieving, and the Ace of Swords, but then they have an idea. Like, you can do that. Say, someone is sad and blah, blah, blah. But you can make it however you want. You could say, someone is napping on a rock, and then they dream that they find a sword, and the sword turns into 7 cups, and you know what I mean? Like, just be creative. Have fun with it. Write it down. Let it flow. And see what comes up for you. See what pops out of your intuition and out of your creative imagination. And just let it fall out onto the paper and journal it all down. And do this multiple times. I highly recommend doing this multiple times with different card combinations. And then you can do it with versions of you sticking to the card meaning, or you not sticking to the card meaning at all and going full on creative. Do whatever you feel called to do. Do both. Do, one or the other. Do however you want. But it's a really fun way to get used to kind of weaving the stories together when you're doing a reading in a way that is more seamless and more natural and easygoing. Because really, tarot is in a way you're telling a story when you're giving a reading. It really is, you're putting a story together and delivering a story. It's very storytelling-y. That's not a word, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. Okay, so that is number 4. That was the 4th way you can journal with your tarot oracle. The tarot oracle deck. I'm pretty sure I said something else, so sorry. Number 5 is to do the basics, right? Just make a spread, make a tarot spread, and write down the tarot spread in your journal and the card you get and the keyword for it, and record it. So this is probably the most general way that you see people recording their readings and journaling about their readings, right? So you would literally just have let's say you're doing a past, present, future spread. A basic 3-card spread. Past, present, future. Past, 3 of Wands. Present, Knight of Cups. Future, 4 of Pentacles. So I'd literally write down the date, the deck I'm using, the past, present, the future, and the card I get for each one, for each position, and then the keyword that goes with each card, and then maybe a sentence or 2 for each card. And that could be it. That might be all that you do. I would then also recommend going down below that and writing a little paragraph that sums it all up, that brings it all together, that ties it all together, that really kind of puts it into that story format, which is where that telling a story exercise really comes into play, because again, it helps you weave these together in a way that again is natural and seamless and makes sense. And it just helps you strengthen and trust your creative and intuitive senses. Okay. So that, guys, is the 5 different ways you can journal with your tarot and oracle decks. Okay, so let's go over all 5 just one last time. 1 is the word vomit, and you're going to do this in all of them in some way, shape, or form, right? So word vomit. 2 is meditate and then reflect on that. 3 is to put yourself in the card and then use and describe your senses and experience while in the card. 4 is to tell a story with probably 2 or more cards. And 5 is to make a spread or find a spread. There, you can find them, you can make them, whatever you want to do. And find them everywhere. I know I have some even on my Instagram that I offer on there, because I make all my own spreads mostly. And then record it. And that's it. And that's a great way to get you started journaling with your tarot deck. And journaling with your tarot deck is a really great way to, again, strengthen your intuition, get to know your deck, get to know yourself. It's a really great way to get to know yourself. It's a great way to be creative, to strengthen that creative and flex that creative muscle, your intuitive muscles. Get to know yourself on such a deeper level. It's really cool. I highly recommend. 10 out of 10 recommend doing if you have not done it before. Okay, so if you guys like this video, make sure you click like, make sure you subscribe to my channel and set up the notifications so you can know when all the new videos come out with tarot deck tips, tarot reviews, unboxings, all the things. If there's anything you want to see, definitely drop it down below. Let me know. Let me know where you're from, what you do, about your spiritual journey, what you like to read with, all the things, so I can get to know you guys. We can really create a fun little community on here. So yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. Make sure you check out my Instagram and my Facebook as well, at Charm Tarot. I'm on there. I'm very active on there, so you can find me on there all the time. And if you want to book a reading with me or shop crystals and grids and all that good stuff on my site, the link is down below again at charmtarot.com. Thanks, guys. See you later.